As I'm recording this script, there are 41 killers in Dead by Daylight. With the Krasu, who just got released, and the community-made Divine Killer on the way, new killer players may feel a little bit overwhelmed when it comes to choosing who they want to play. I am here to give some advice on how to choose a killer main, and more specifically, what you should keep in mind when shopping for your next character to learn. So you're either new to the game, the killer role, or you're just a little bit lost on how to choose a main. Here's where to start. Before I found twins, I chose one of the base killers that I was able to pick up quickly. So technically my first main was Wraith. He's got a bit of stealth, a bit of mobility, and most importantly, he is super easy to pick up. That was how I got over that initial fear of playing killer because there's a lot of pressure on that role. I learned the fundamentals of chasing, what perks to use, and I realized that survivors are human beings, and for the most part, won't throw tomatoes at me when I inevitably lose. And once you got those fundamentals down, your next step is identifying your weaknesses as a killer. Maybe you don't know how to work around pallets. Maybe you can't keep gens locked down. Maybe you hate having to walk across the map or being limited to just a melee weapon. Here's where we're going to talk about the function of a killer power. Killer powers do a couple of things for you, but the most important traits for you specifically are for them to be fun, intuitive, and for the power to help you out with an aspect of killer that you don't enjoy. There are few killers that solve all problems, but if your games feel sluggish, you can try a high mobility killer. If you'd like more of a mechanical challenge, there are ranged killers. This is how you narrow down the type of problem you're trying to solve. The part of Twins' power that really works for me is the map-wide pressure. It can often feel overwhelming knowing there is something happening on the opposite side of the map, but you just can't get there in time. With Charlotte and Victor, I can be in two places at once and I can easily maintain pressure over gens, hooks, and exit gates. The killer power makes up for a weakness that I have. Another important thing to consider is what you want out of a trial. An obvious answer might be that you want to win. I bet that we can dig a little deeper. If you're hyper-competitive, you might want to put yourself at an advantage by looking at some of these stronger killers. If you enjoy a good scare, stealth killers are the way to go. I enjoy connecting with the survivors, but luckily, that's something you can do with any killer. But with twins specifically, I know that because there are so few twins mains, I want to give my opponents a good impression of them because they are such an underdog on the killer roster. Speaking of, let's talk about the ways that you can connect with a killer character. Aesthetics. The killer's design, their cosmetics, the era they represent, their fashion, color scheme, their sound and voice lines if they have them. An example of a character I love aesthetically but don't play very much is Singularity. He's a robot who tried to turn into an organic being, he's got a bunch of cool voice lines. He's the only AI I like. Lore. The killer's story can also resonate with you. We have tragic characters like Billy, Spirit, Artist. We have evil characters like Clown, Trickster, Ghostface. Killers that lost their minds. Killers that were transformed or misled. Oni is an extreme version of someone obsessed with legacy and honor. At face value, those are good things, but once you start killing people because you think that they're a fake samurai, you've gone too far. DBD tube. If you're easily suggestible, like me, you might see someone do a cool trick shot or do something funny as a killer in a video, and you'll want to do the same thing. The DBD content scene is a great place to get the general vibe of a killer before committing to buying them. Guides, montages, lore, or design breakdowns all give you an impression of a killer without you having to fork over money or shards. Licenses. We've mainly been talking about stuff that mostly applies to original killers, but a solid third of the killer roster is licensed. And if you have a horror franchise that you love and it's been implemented into Dead by Daylight, that might be a great place to look. Obviously, loving the Saw franchise doesn't mean you'll love the pig, but it gives you some direction. Personal connection and fun. This is the most subjective category. I've met people that connected with killers for the most specific, personal reasons that cannot be replicated. While I find Twins to be the most fun killer in the game, you might find her boring. And obviously, that means that you're wrong. The best way to find out if someone works for you is to try them out. And while that's not reasonable for everyone, as spending money isn't always an option, you should definitely try out free character trials when they're available for events. You just might stumble upon your new favorite character to play. My personal reason for loving the Twins is the fact that she is an unconventionally attractive female character in a video game. I see a lot of feminization or sexualization of characters where it doesn't make sense story-wise or proportionally or logically. Charlotte is strong, determined, and protects her family at all costs. Her looks don't stop her from accomplishing her goals, and being an also unconventionally attractive woman, she inspires me. Categorizing all the killers. And of course, the most important factor to consider is the mechanics of the killer power. So let's go over these categories. Stealth. You have the ability to hide your terror radius, and you can sneak up on people. You're unpredictable, and you bring the most scares to this barely a horror game. Mechanically focused. Your power takes a while to get the hang of, and it's easy to miss and lose. But once you got the mechanics down, you are a powerhouse. These killers have high skill ceilings and are probably the hardest to master. On the flip side, easy to pick up. This is a killer that may have some nuance under the surface, but is so easy to learn and get the hang of. This category contains 2 of my comfort turn-off-my-brain killers. Anti-loop. These killers make up for messing up in a mind game or chase and give you that extra boost against those pesky pallets and windows. Whether it's slowing them down, locking down an area, or being able to injure with a secondary attack, you are stronger in chase with this power. Teleportation. Your power is in the name. You can teleport and you don't have to slowly walk across the map like a lot of the other killers. You're able to manage the macro game a lot better, but you might not have as much of a bonus to your chases. Dash. Dash killers have been a hot topic as of late, but they are able to dramatically increase their speed by choice, with some variations of what every dash looks like. You get some good map mobility as well as some anti-loot potential. Torment. You're able to dramatically affect the survivor in a unique way. These are one-of-a-kind powers that allow you to excel in a very specialized field. Doctor, for instance, can get a lot of information and disorient survivors. Plague can passively injure the survivors as infection spreads among them. Jack of all trades. These are some of the more modern recent killers. Rather than having a focused power where they do one thing really well, they can do a lot of things decently. Some mobility, some anti-loop, some information, but no crazy amount of any of these. If you'd like a bit of a boost to all parts of killer, these killers aren't too tough to pick up. Territorial. Territorial killers are very difficult, but they give you an entirely new experience to the game. You gotta learn where the most survivor foot traffic is, map generation, how to lock down generators. When done well, you can cause a snowball where survivors get caught in your territory, your web, and your setup leads to a payoff. But when you're going against more coordinated teams, or when you're put on a map where your traps aren't hidden, you're gonna struggle. These are high-risk, high-reward killers that completely change the gameplay loop. Underdogs. Now, these characters are in their own category because they are in one way or another neglected, buggy, nerfed, or they've been changed so many times that no one understands them. Twins and Houndmaster have countless bugs that can drastically lessen your enjoyment of them. Skull Merchant was nerfed into the ground and we don't know when the rework is. And Onryo has been reworked 3 or 4 times and she still has bugs and issues. These are difficult characters to main. And it's worth mentioning that difficulty because I know all you've heard from me is how awesome the twins are. I love them. But literally last time I streamed, I got bugged out and I had to disconnect. Oh, I can't do anything. Yeah, I've hit the point. I've hit the point of... Fuck! This sucks. I can't... I can't do anything. I remember this bug. Alright. It is an upward battle fighting for a neglected or unloved killer. An important point I see brought up often is the matter of how strong a killer is, particularly when paired against experienced or high MMR survivors. Now, because of our tendency to put killers in boxes, killer strength is generally agreed upon. At the top, we got killers like Blight and Nurse who have high mobility and chase capabilities. If you'd like to choose a killer based on how well they'll kill survivors, that is a valid choice. Though, perhaps listen to a word of warning. Choosing a strong killer does not guarantee a win, in the same way choosing a weak killer does not guarantee a loss. You can win and lose with every single one of the killers in Dead by Daylight. I'd actually like to give you guys some examples from my wonderful Discord community on why they chose some of their mains, so y'all can see the infinite reasons that you can choose a killer. This Knight main chose him because he loves the feel of being in a suit of armor, and being able to catch survivors off guard with the guards. My lovely moderator has been a Springtrap main ever since he was brought into the game because he's a huge FNAF fan. This Deathslinger main had a journey of maining Legion to Ghostface to Executioner before landing on our favorite Western cowboy. Alright, I've been talking about a bunch of different things, so let's go ahead and recap. When starting out, choose an easy-to-learn killer. Learn the basics of looping, maintaining pressure on survivors, types of perks you like, and so much more. You will never master killer, but this initial run will help you figure out what parts of the role you enjoy and what parts you struggle with. Take that knowledge and use that to direct you to trying out other killers. Killers that stand out because of their looks, their power, their story. Shop around, use trial and error to figure out what feels good to play and who doesn't feel right. There is a near endless amount of content to find on killers that you might be curious about if you don't want to spend money on them yet. Guides, lore, power breakdowns, and so much more. If there's a license that's in the game that you really enjoyed, that could be a great place to look. Strength matters to a degree. Obviously, this video is coming from someone who doesn't care that much about winning, so I'm not about to be like, just play nurse and you'll have fun, because that's not a philosophy that I agree with. And finally, as unsatisfying as this might be to hear, your journey to find a killer main will be your own. I can give general advice, I can talk about my own experiences, but I can't tell you what will be fun for you, because that is something for you to figure out. Before I move on to the conclusion, I'd like to thank my wonderful Ko-Fi supporters for giving me money. Thank you Mazer, Silver, Souza, Fluffy, Gwen, Fajitas, Bashi, Hammock, Nelson, Cats, Rats, Leo, Thief, Ulrin, Dingo, Pirate, Yokai, Nemoon, Misfortune, Herp, Clover, and Itza. Obviously, you guys can tell that I love the twins, and my online identity is entirely centered around this fictional character. So I have a biased perspective when it comes to choosing a killer main and how important it is. Every journey will look different. I've talked about this a little bit in my character mains and identity video, but I'd like to bring back the point of who we choose to main being tied up in how we define ourselves. That is why I believe having a character that you always come back to is important. You don't need one to play the game, but I really do believe that it enhances my enjoyment of Dead by Daylight. I'm always looking for updates, for cosmetic collections. It makes me so happy to hear when people say that I'm the best twins they've ever been against. Even though I'm probably also the worst by default. A killer main, to me, is a character that you will enjoy even if you lose. A character that you can connect with, that feels intuitive, that you want to master and improve with. And to the new players and the wandering killers that haven't found their twins yet, I wish you the best of luck. Charlotte and Victor helped me understand myself better. That's what fictional characters and stories help us with. They exist because the real world limits us. Because these people would be monsters in real life, but now can exist as cautionary tales, the extremes of humanity. Every single character matters deeply to someone. I wholeheartedly believe that if you haven't found your character yet, that they will eventually make their way into the fog. Be patient and do your best to know and listen to yourself.
Listen to the night singing, each one sends a tune. I love you.
He looks super cool. I really like all his mutations, and I like blonde guys who are evil bad dudes.
Kind of clicked with the power, which is what's happened with my previous mains as well.
They're more than just characters in a video game for me. They're like a source of relatability and comfort.
I love how simple he is, but how much depth there is in learning the power as well.
That draws me towards Piggy as a character and why I'm so attached to her, is how she is presented in the game.
Yeah, I guess they feel like family.